take home the meals. Good afternoon, everybody. My friends at AT&T tell me it's now 1 o'clock, so we'll call the meeting to order. It's good to see everybody here today. Welcome to our visitors today as well. I have no announcements today. Does anybody have any announcements? If not, the first order of business we have is to take consideration of the minutes from September 16th, 2016, and the chair would entertain a motion to accept those.
I'll move that be approved.
Governor Gibson makes a motion.
Second.
Governor Fleischaker seconds. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. This motion carries. First report of the day is from our treasurer, Ms. Linda Ice.
Thank you and good afternoon. We'll look at the financial statements as of September 30th, 2016. As you can see reflected on the cash graph, the cash balance at this time is at $15.1 million, and this is an increase of over $3.6 million over the prior year. There's a lot of activity that happens on the financial statements in September. We talked about this a little bit last month. All the financial aid flows through the financial statements. You can see that, you'll see that on the next statement. I think Darren talked about this a little bit, but in September, we had total refunds to students of about $6.4 million, and that was over almost 2,700 students for that dollar amount. Of course, there will be additional checks dispersed throughout the semester, but September is always the largest. When you go to the next statement, the statement of net position, there you can see a lot of the transactions from the financial aid. You can see that reflected on the accounts receivable, a difference from the prior month of over $14 million, so paying off student balances. It's obviously reflected in the cash. Total assets are at $149 million. Total liabilities are at $76 million, which gives us total net assets of $73 million. And also, I wanted to note on the liabilities, you can see where we have the bond payment in September. You can see that difference on the bonds payable from the prior month, and the payable amount was $1.6 million, and then we also have interest, which was about $600,000, and that payment was made in September. The next statement that we look at is the comparative statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position. And total operating revenues are up. They have an increase of $1.9 million over the prior year. We talked about that again, enrollment, expanded master's programs, so those numbers get reflected on that statement. Also, state grants have increased by over $200,000, and a big piece of this is the Access Missouri grant. We've talked about that before. I did do some checking with the financial aid director, and for FY17, the maximum award amount is now at $2,250 for the year. Last year was $1,850, so that's an increase to the students. Again, that's aid that they do not have to pay back. So we'd like to see those numbers flowing through and to the students. When we look at total operating expenses, the increase over the prior year is about $293,000. Non-operating revenues have an increase of $854,000, and in the non-operating, obviously, is the money from the additional appropriations as well as the appropriation money that we're getting for the UMKC agreement. I also wanted to note on here the interest on capital asset-related debt. The difference over the prior year is $100,000, and this is basically from the bond refunding that we did back in 2015. So now we are seeing the results of that. We've got lower interest rates, and so that's flowing through, and we're seeing the benefit of that this year. A piece of that dollar amount is also we don't have any bond issue cost for this particular in the current year, so we are seeing savings from that activity. In the current year, we have an income before the revenues of $9.7 million, and in the prior year, it was at 7.2. So we have a difference of an increase of $2.5 million. And on capital appropriations from the state, You can see in the current year, we have about $1.3 million, and again, those are the draws on the Reynolds Hall project. And that seems to still be going very well. We submit the information, and usually they turn that around within less than 5 days and refund that money back to us. And that concludes my report. Do you have any questions for me?
Anyone have any questions for Linda? Linda, thank you for that report. We'll need to take action on that. Is there a motion to approve Linda's report?
So moved. Second.
Governor Frank, second by Governor Fleischhaker. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Rob, do you have your report?
Yes. Look at some construction projects going on campus. First of all, we'll start with as Linda mentioned, the Reynolds Hall remodeling project is going very well. Not only the draws coming in very well, the remodel project itself is going very well. The third floor renovation is approximately 75% complete at this time. Contractors preparing the floor for the new flooring, and the piping for the new air handler is being installed on the first floor when there's no school in session, either at night, weekends. They did the first couple of days of this week as well. We're still on track to finish the third floor in December. We'll start doing a domino effect and start moving people around. And the first floor will begin remodeled in the spring. We're completing, right now we're in the process of completing the design of Nixon Hall, which is the addition to Reynolds Hall. We will plan to have a groundbreaking for the Nixon Hall sometime in late November, early December, so that the governor can attend that. So we'll send out invitations for everybody to attend that. The Joplin Regional Center, which is future home of the Child Development Center, all the asbestos removal is complete and the air samples came back all clear, which is always a good thing. We demoed our portion of the building, which is about 12,000 square feet, and we have begun to put up new walls. So that project's going along well as well, with plans to move the Child Development Center in spring break of next spring. Taylor Hall remodel, once the Child Development Center moves out, we start looking at Taylor Hall, where they came out of, and start remodeling that project. We're fine-tuning the design of that area to be renovated, as well as the addition to Taylor Hall. Contractor is working through the HVAC changes necessary for the renovation, and as we found in the Reynolds Hall renovation, HVAC is an expensive project. So we're working through all those nuances. This project was required to provide UMKC adequate space to house the dental school on our campus in the Julio Leon Health Science Center. And they will take occupancy of that portion of the Health Science Center next July 1st. So we have to get everything done on our side, all the ducks in a row, move people out so that's available for them. Finally, the trail project with the city of Joplin. Just heard from the city as early as this morning that they're getting ready to send the plans to the trail project to MoDOT, because MoDOT is the one that's granting the grant to them to do the trail. We're going to set up a meeting with the city in the next couple of weeks to try to work out all the fine-tuning project issues. Any questions on any of these projects? Lots of stuff going on.
Any questions for Rob? Rob, thank you very much. Next up is the report of the athletic director, and as I look over here, I don't see Jared, so Rachel will call on you. I did notice that you turned his nameplate down. You were afraid I called you Jared.
Dr. Carson for me.
Yeah.
So I appreciate y'all having me here today. First thing I want to say is cross country is competing this weekend in our conference tournament. They'll be in Illinois, just right across. They're staying in St. Louis tonight, and then we'll run there tomorrow. Men are picked first. They've competed in 5 meets so far, and every time that they've competed, we've had the runner of the week for the MIAA, so we're excited about them. Women should also finish very high, and we're looking forward to what they can do for us tomorrow. We do have a new commissioner for the MIAA. It's been named as Mike Racy. He is starting in November to just follow around the current commissioner. His official start date is actually mid-January, but he will be on our campus November 29th to meet with campus, meet with athletics, to meet with our student athletes and all of our coaches and staff as well. So we're looking forward to having him on our campus and show him Missouri Southern. Also, we have the EADA, which we do every year. It's the Equity and Athletics Data Analysis. It's a report that we do with the Treasurer's Office, Foundation Office, our business office within athletics, and that's due October 28th. So we're currently in the process of getting all of that together. The potential Division II legislation, we go to the convention for the NCAA Division II convention. It was in Nashville this year. It'll be in January. Currently, they have the second publication of all new legislation, which are 18 pieces right now. I presented that to SAC, which is our Student Athlete Advisory Committee, 2 weeks ago. So they voted on those 18 if they were in support of it or not. We sent that to the conference office, and they will do a vote amongst the student athletes for the conference to send that into the NCAA. And then lastly, I wanted to just highlight that we have a mobile application that we're doing through Arvist. It will begin next week. We have opened it for this weekend just for us to kind of work through all of the kinks, and we will open it to the public next week. They will be able to buy gear, tickets, see the stadiums and seating on that, all kinds of interaction things that you'll see through that app. So any questions for me? There is a full report on the yellow pages in your handouts.
Skip Muscle Madness.
Moso Madness, yes, we are having Moso Madness, October 25th. It used to actually be Meet the Lines, so it was open to linebackers and the public to come in, meet our teams, men and women's teams. We've changed that now to be called Moso Madness, but it's the same idea. So it'll be a 2-hour event. We'll have hot dogs. Everybody can come in. We'll have a celebratory game, if you will, and then both our men's and women's teams will introduce themselves and play a little inter-squad as well. So hope to see you there.
Brad playing as a celebrity.
That was last year.
That's not
And so good.
Memorable.
Yes.
There's actually a difference between good and memorable.
There is a difference, yes.
I was just being nice. But again,
Understood.
I'm the guest.
Any questions for Rachel? Thank you very much for being
Thank you,
here
yes,
today. Next up is the report of the Executive Vice President, Dr. Hodson.
Good afternoon. You do have a copy of the full report at your place setting, but I'll pick out a couple of highlights. On the bottom of page 1, you see an example of the new advertising campaign the university has undertaken, the Momentum campaign. If you live in this media market, you've seen the billboards or the television commercials. Maybe if you're outside this media market, you've seen the digital advertising that we're doing online, but that is an effort to capitalize on the record enrollment, the new academic programs, some of the great things happening here, and foster a sense of momentum within the local community and our recruiting markets about what's happening here at Missouri Southern. I do want to compliment the university relations and marketing staff. That was an original concept, particularly the videographer and photographer that did all the work for the television and print ads. So it's very, very good, and it's getting some good feedback across the region. On page 2 at the top, and you also have a copy of this at your seat, we decided to begin to document for faculty and staff the nature of our incoming freshman class. And so you have a report about some demographic and sociological information regarding our new students, the freshmen coming in the fall of 2016. And we hope that this provides the faculty and the staff some insight into the type of student we have here at Missouri Southern. If any of you are still driving a 1998 Toyota Camry, you'll notice on the back that was the best-selling car of the year the freshmen were born. It might be time to trade in because those students are now here at Missouri Southern. But it's a great way to communicate the ever-evolving nature of our freshman class to faculty and staff and help them understand who the students are that are choosing to attend Missouri Southern. So we have a copy of that for you. And then I will pass around a couple of samples of this next publication. We sent out information about the Yours to Lose program over the summer to 4,000 high-achieving high school juniors and seniors in a 10-state area, informing them about the program, letting them know that it was going to be up and running, and asking them to request more information. We did get a number of students requesting information. What we're passing around is the Yours to Lose prospectus, which is an informational piece, a promotional piece going to those high-achieving math and science students that might be interested in the Yours to Lose program. And so that's, again, a product of a collaboration between the faculty in biology and chemistry, URM, and the Office of Admissions in putting that together. So, the next thing is at the bottom of page 2, I'd like to draw your attention to, and this is probably the most exciting thing that I have to report today. In April 2015, the Board of Governors met and had a strategic planning session, and they did a SWOT analysis. And the top 3 weaknesses that the Board of Governors identified strategically, one of those 3 was the fact that we did not have a good database of our graduates here at Missouri Southern, which makes it difficult to promote events, to raise money, to do all sorts of things. So we immediately hired a couple of temporary workers that went down into the registrar's vault. It took 12 months, but we have added 30,000 new names to our database that were not previously included. That is not a typo. 30,000 new names. It took us a year to hand enter from cards into our system those new names. So for example, we used to mail the Crossroads magazine to 35. Well, now that circulation is going to double. Now we're still doing a lot of analysis of some of those deceased, certainly there are address changes over the last few years, but we now have 75,000 names in our database compared to about 45,000 a year ago. And so I don't know that we can still consider that a strategic weakness. We have remediated that deficiency in our alumni database.
And Brad, how will they keep that up moving forward?
Well, we began to do something that we should do every year, and that is sending a chunk of those names out every year to a service that looks for their current address, looks for deceased, name changes, marriages, divorces, employment. And so if you will divide your database into 5 buckets, and every 5th year another bucket goes out, you can keep up with what you don't find out organically, like with pieces of mail being returned or graduates calling in themselves. You send out 20% of your database every year. And we have begun that. We sent out 20% about a month ago of these new names, and we will just work that consistently year after year to keep that up.
Post office has a thing called the National Change of Address List that you can access. A lot of these marketing firms have that.
Yeah.
Multiple other ways there they can track you down. So, and we'll add new graduates, of course. That's
Every year.
Yeah. We won't let them get away.
So we're very pleased with that result, even though it did take a year, but it's that. And finally, on the back, you'll notice that we did host a very special guest last Thursday for lunch here on campus. The Japanese ambassador to the United States, Kenichiro Seisei, was here as a guest of Congressman Long, and I do want to thank Governor McCumber and Governor Fleischhaker for joining us at lunch. I think that was Governor Franks as well. Yes, thank you. And that was a very enjoyable afternoon, and it was good to have the congressman on campus. All 24 Japanese students enrolled at Missouri Southern this fall were in attendance, and as you can see, they all got their picture taken with the ambassador. So it was a lot of fun.
Shared with President Marble, I talked to Congressman Long's office this week, and the ambassador made it very clear during his visit to Southwest Missouri what the highlight of it as it was. It was his visit to Missouri Southern and getting to meet see the campus and meet the 24 Japanese students. He was pretty overwhelmed by that. It was a highlight for the students too. I really enjoyed it.
It was a big day for Southern, and hats off to you and your team for doing that. Also thanks to Congressman Long for bringing him here. Very fascinating to talk with him. Having the students there was a huge highlight for them, and it meant the world to them to get to meet him and have him talk to him. So it was a big day for Southern. Very proud.
I think Alan shared something that I would share with you, which is when they contacted the students and asked them to come, what was their reaction to it? They RSVP'd like immediately.
Yeah.
In 2 hours, everybody RSVP'd will be there. And they came.
Oh, yeah.
They were there early, ready to go.
We actually had one Japanese alumnus that is still here working that snuck in as a student. She was so excited to have the ambassador here and we were glad to have her, but she admitted later, she goes, I'm not really a student anymore, but I just wanted to come. So,
I think they were a little suspicious at first. Is this really true? Will the ambassador actually come here? But it didn't take long. So, well, take a chance. Sure enough, you think.
They have their phones ready to take pictures, did they?
Oh yeah, my gosh, yes. There are pictures everywhere.
Any questions for Dr. Hodson? Or is that complete your report? Thank you. Next up is the Provost and VP of Academic Affairs, Dr. Paulson Parson.
Thank you so much. In my report, I summarized just about a small number of things, but they're all pretty significantly important. First, I wanted to, as we embark on the academic year, make sure I keep you abreast of accreditation issues that are coming up. Not so much our regional HLC accreditation, but our professional accreditations, because they go year round. Our strategic plan obligates us, and it's a privilege and honor to be able to pursue these accreditations as external validation of the quality of our programs. Our strategic plan is actually expiring this year, and we are gonna begin the next couple of weeks to formulate our internal strategic planning committee and meet for the first time. But since we've last met, we have really 4 significant accreditation initiatives that have come up. First is NACEP. NACEP is accreditation for our dual credit program. Again, when you look at our enrollment numbers, a significant impetus to many of our records was our dual credit students. Dual credit, dual enrollment students, concurrent enrollment students, whatever term you use, very significant to our ability to meet the expectations for 15 to finish and graduating students in 4 years. It's a key component of the state's ability to meet the blueprint. So we're very excited to do dual credit, but we want to make sure we do it well. And pursuing NACEP accreditation is an external indicator of that. We had our all the written documentation was submitted last week. We had, or was it this week? It goes during fall break this week, I guess, just now. We had our actual face-to-face interview, which is required. We all had to travel with the McGrain as associate provost, myself, and our coordinator for dual credit. Had to travel as an indication of institutional commitment to maintain the program and have an interview. I think that went well. We have December to adjust some additional issues, and we'll find out in spring next year if we have attained that for the first time. We're also attempting to obtain initial accreditation for our social work program. It's a BSW program. Just today, we had our what they call benchmark 2, the year 2 interview. They look at you very, very closely for the first 3 years, and then 4 years after that to make sure that you're doing what you need to. Foundational expectations in the first year. This year they start looking at support services, curriculum, assessments, field placements, things like that. Got the feedback today, and so we have about 30 days to get back with them on their immediate concerns and continue. We have exceeded our expectations for enrollment in the social work program, and we are at capacity. We are hiring a new faculty member in that area, but we are at capacity for the faculty that we have versus the student enrollment. We talked a little bit earlier at lunch about the ABET accreditation for engineering technology, and we did recently have a visit, and we'll update you on the outcomes of that, but I feel positive and confident about that. And then finally, we are embarking on a brand new accreditation, looking at the feasibility of accrediting our music program. Our music program is very high quality, very unique in terms of the breadth and depth of areas that we emphasize. It's called NASM. NASM is the accrediting body. We've never had it before. There may be some structural physical space issues that we have to look at, but a lot of the core fundamental quality of the program and curriculum and faculty credentials are surely there for us to meet those. So there will be more as we go through. Again, we're very dedicated to making sure we maintain these because it's very important for the external world to understand our quality. Academic policies, Brad will talk a little bit about them in his report momentarily. In the highly condensed, summarized academic policies report is 9 pages, extracted from over 135 pages of academic policies, activities. Again, this is the time you will begin to see academic policies report reflecting not just curricular changes, prerequisite changes and the like, but actually substantive academic issues that are now routed through that in accordance with the new faculty handbook routing scheme. There are 2 that I really wanted to call attention to, and we can visit any others that you would like when we present the report. One is with regard to advising and registration issues. As we are growing in our enrollment, as we expect to continue to expand the number of students who are interested in coming to and attending Missouri Southern, we need to make sure we're planning for capacity in that area. We are doing it with faculty, we're doing it with physical facilities and the like, but we recognize that there are probably more effective ways for us to handle registration and advising. And to that extent, we made a variety of significant changes. Most notably, we're extending the registration time by a full 2 weeks. We have started in the past, or we're scheduled to start on April 7th. We'll push it all the way up to March 27th. We're giving some earlier preferential times for veterans and for some other groups that need a little bit of extra time. And we're going to try to facilitate the actual registration process separate. I show you this with mixed feelings. It is our schedule book, and I'm very excited because I think the Momentum campaign is very descriptive and reflective and high quality. But on the other hand, I show you a printed schedule, and I hope it's the last one I ever have to show you. We are looking to move away from much of the printed things that we do, because obviously before we even get it back from the printer, it is no longer timely, and we're adding more and more courses. So we are, in order to not have a printed schedule, we need to make sure that we have a very easy to navigate, very comprehensive, very up-to-date electronic portal. And so we are completely revising student access to what they need to navigate through a semester schedule. On the second page in the back of the first page, I just give you some examples from a couple of different integrated software products that will enable us to move in this direction. We are bringing online, and probably in the next week or so, our online college catalog or bulletin, whatever term you are familiar with. We expect that we have printed en masse at least our last bulletin. We'll need them for archival reasons, a small number, a small batch, but we don't intend to print actual physical catalogs in their entirety anymore. Again, because as you can see, with 135 pages of academic policies, they're almost outdated as well before they get back from the printers. So here's just an example. Everything that is highlighted is clickable. It will take you through to a course description like is on the back of the first page. And we are intending to tie that to syllabi and student learning outcomes, course objectives that are expected, and also there will be a link with actual scheduling. So on the scheduling, it will be real time. You'll be able to see open sections of a class, closed sections, how many seats are available, what the prerequisites are, the course description, and the like. So we're also hoping that students will be able to do this from any device that they have. And so we're pushing that down to actual smartphone access. The other major academic policy issue that I wanted to talk about is that it is passed through and it is in the proposal for your consideration today for us to at least begin the process of moving toward compliance with 15 to finish expectations. And that is that we would like the language to reflect that the minimum length of an academic degree program at the bachelor's level is reduced from 124 hours to 120. So just the mathematics of it all, 15 per semester, 2 semesters per year for 4 years, which is the state and national expectations as we move students toward completion necessitated this particular change. Again, it is just the first step of many that we will have to take toward being in compliance, but it is there and it is really pretty significant and speaks to the core of academic issues. So I wanted to make you aware that that was very much necessitated by 15 to finish. President Marvel's going to talk a little bit about it in his report as well, and at the statewide kickoff for 15 to finish. So I will just emphasize that our 15 to finish protocol, as well as guided pathways and some other components of SB 997, are rooted in the platform of what's known as Complete College America. And Missouri is one of 40 states in Complete College America. And Complete College America is an initiative that was originally formed to help facilitate academically unprepared and socioeconomically disadvantaged students through the university system. But as it turns out, a lot of students of all backgrounds and all geographic areas are having trouble moving through the system. So they have identified, benchmarked, studied what they consider to be high impact practices or best practices. They call them game changers to get students to graduate. And full-time is 15 hours, 15 to finish is one of those. I have listed here 3 others, and there will be, the next one that they will add that they share is math pathways, and that is not everyone takes the algebra to calculus path. There is an alternate quantitative literacy path. Very excited because I spoke with the math department head yesterday, and we are already in compliance with that one even before it's an actual game changer. But these are other things that we'll be talking about that will help us to achieve greater success in graduation rates in 15 to finish. So I just wanted to take this particular meeting to introduce you to those.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Carson. Any other questions for Dr. Carson? VP for Student Affairs, Mr. Fuller.
There are several things on the report in front of you, and I'll just highlight a few of those. If Dr. Kramer is breathing a sigh of relief, it's because midterm grades have been submitted, and so now they're just dealing with the students that are coming back. Initial reports have already been generated on that, so several offices are already reaching out, advising financial aid, student support for tutoring and those things for the students that need assistance. It's hard to believe that we're already talking about, as Dr. Carson just said, pre-registration for next semester, but you have those dates in front of you because that begins on November 4th, and we start enrollment and start it all over again. During the Budget and Audit Committee meeting, Perkins was mentioned, and I know several of you asked what that impact is. Currently, $400,000, a little over $400,000 in Perkins loans have been offered for the 16-17 school year to approximately 199 students. Green Dot program, I think you saw some of that coverage on television, and we've talked about that. So that's the violence and sexual violence bystander training, and that is going full swing and have additional sessions coming up in November. In addition to that, our University Police Chief has completed the forensic experiential trauma interview training, which is really a unique approach to interviewing victims of assault and sexual assault. And so we'll be rolling that out to the other officers, and that was actually at the request of the nurse that we work with at the hospital system, the same nurse that deals with sexual assault victims, and so it's going to be an interesting program for us. Advising, counseling, and testing, the numbers there, they've had over 602 advising appointments already this semester. Student Success Center, I wanted to touch base on that. I think we talked about the tutor day. We had students that were driving 2.5 to 3 hours away. We had 7 different schools that participated in tutor day, where our Student Success Center and our students at Missouri Southern trained 119 high school students to go back to their communities and conduct tutoring sessions for their schools. And so very proud of that. Last thing, Student Life, which includes the student activities and the Campus Activity Board, recreational services. They've had individual touch points with over 2,954 students, individual students so far since the campus started classes. And so that's a significant increase, about a 32% increase in the amount of students attending their events so far this fall. With that, I would entertain any questions and leave the other items for your review.
Any questions for Darren? Thank you for your report. Next up is Faculty Senate President, Dr. Brad Kramer.
Thank you. I've given you a summary of our previous month, and while it might look short, as Dr. Carson mentioned, this is highly condensed down. I think October and November are really our deadlines for catalog changes, and so the majority of what the Faculty Senate is doing these months is reviewing and dealing with all the potential course changes, additions, and drops. It does seem to be running a bit smoother with the changes in the curricular routing documents, so that has helped. Just to mention the highlights, we've had a couple of academic policy committee reports which are attached, which really deal with the reduction in hours. The Faculty Senate did approve those reports, sent them on to the VPAA, as well as a report from our Faculty Welfare Committee, which you can read, which is a new introduction to, or an introduction of a new sliding calculator for faculty compensation for summer courses. And then, of course, the numerous proposals for course changes, which are listed on my report. It's just numbers. Those are really what are outlined and detailed in the VPAA's report. So we actually had to meet twice this month to get all these things done. So our next meeting is going to be in November, and I hear that there's even more than what we dealt with last time for course changes, so we might need 3 meetings. And I'll take any questions.
Any questions for Dr. Kramer? Thank you for your report. Staff Senate President, Mr. Owens.
Yes, thank you. Our Angel Tree Committee has begun work on this year's Angel Tree. This will be the 3rd year for the program, which has become one of our largest and favorite programs of the Staff Senate. The program provides gifts to Pell-eligible students with children under the age of 15. And we place the Angel Tree in Hearns Hall, just outside the President's office. They'll have ornaments on the tree with the child's name, information, and those ornaments are adopted by staff, faculty, and even other students. We collect gifts from those ornaments, and Staff Senate picks a day just before the holidays to wrap those and make those available for the parents to come collect and give those gifts to their children. Our Elections Committee announced winners in the 3rd quarter Superior Service Champion Award. The Service Champion Award is given quarterly to 3 outstanding staff, and the award winners were selected based on nominations from the campus community. The winners were Cindy Fletcher, Lyle Burrow, and Ken Serbo. And then our Staff Welfare Committee has proposed a staff appreciation wall to be located in Hearns Hall, directly across from Human Resources. The wall would have a name plaque listing staff with 20, 25, and 30 plus years of service. There would also be a separate plaque naming the winners of the annual Superior Service Awards. And in January of each year, the Staff Welfare Committee would update those plaques, and funding for the wall will be covered by the foundation, thanks to Dr. Hodson. Any questions for me?
Questions for Mr. Owens? Thank you for your report. Student Senate President, Ms. Amanda Gardner.
We filled all of those vacancies for Student Senate. We have about 8 applicants, which is really awesome. So it was a little harder to kind of pick who we wanted to be on Student Senate, which would be a great problem to have. And we also filled the vacancies that were brought to us for faculty Senate and administrative committees. We also approved appropriations for the few registered student organizations that came forward to us. Any questions?
Any questions for Amanda? Thank you for your report. This morning we had a meeting of the Audit and Budget Committee at 10 o'clock this morning, and I'll call on the chair of that committee, Governor Gibson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We spent the bulk of our time this morning reviewing the annual audit by BKD. I have representatives here, and they'll be presenting at least I hope a condensed version of their report to the full board. We accepted their report at the audit committee level, budget audit committee level, and once they make their report here, I'll make the motion on behalf of the committee that we accept it at the board level. We had a great deal of discussion about the need to do some financing for upcoming construction projects. The estimated cost to renovate the regional center and Taylor Hall and a lot of other things. Rob's got a lot of plans to spend money. And he admitted he'd not been able to convince the contractors to take payments over the next 7 years. So the estimate that he gave us this morning is $14 million for all of these renovations. And so we have authorized, at the committee level, we have authorized the administration to solicit requests for proposals to secure up to $15.5 million over a 10-year, to be repaid over a 10-year period to provide funding for these construction projects. And I will make that in a form of a motion to the full board.
Very well, we have a motion.
Second.
And a second from Governor Fleischaker. Any discussion?
I want to thank Rob for the work that he did in advance, sending that out to the board so that we could see that. certainly made understanding the payback, the university's ability to service these bonds much more transparent. Appreciate it very much.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
The only other thing I'd add to that is we've asked Governor Opotnick to work with management to develop these requests for proposals. This particular issue is right in her wheelhouse, and thank you for agreeing to do that. We spent some time looking at a new cash graph projection. This came up, this was an idea that Governor Franks came up with a few months ago, and Linda has been working on it diligently. And we saw a work in progress, but she's going to start providing that in our packets either next month or the following. What's it in there? The
Is this in there? Is that this?
No, that's
Oh, that's the other.
That's current, this is a projection.
Yeah.
And finally, we had a pretty significant discussion on the appropriate level of cash reserves for the university. And in the end, we've asked management to bring us some analysis and proposals for our consideration at our February 2017 meeting. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Governor Gibson. I'd like to just echo to Governor Plotnick, thank you very much for your help on the RFP issue, because it's quite deep and you have the expertise, and we very much appreciate it.
I think Governor Gibson said something that's never been said before in history. Rob has money he wants to spend. I'm not sure, but I think that's.
I was actually looking at Rob when he said that, and he made a frowny face. And that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. So,
You're saying that the words, phrases rob and want to spend have not been put together very often?
I've never heard it. Maybe it's someplace in history it happened.
they don't go hand in hand. Next up is the report of our president, Dr. Marble.
Thank you, Governor Cummings. To pick up just a little bit on accreditation fees that Dr. Cross was speaking about. It's not in the written report, but we were notified this week that HLC site visit will be February 17th through the 19th of 2019. I know that sounds like it's a long ways off, but it'll get here before you know it. So we need to start working on that fairly quickly. Part of that is strategic planning. We've put together our strategic planning group. There's a committee on campus already. There's some vacancies. We have to replace some folks there. But we also need to be thinking about a board work session to talk about mission and vision, really, to get us all started. So sometime early probably next semester, we need to do that. January, February time period would be my suggestion. And returning to the 15 to finish conversation, we did visit Missouri State. Dr. Carson, Darren, Fullerton, myself. We were joined, fortunately, by Brad, Dr. Kramer, to go with us as Faculty Senate President, and Dr. Nick Nicoletti, who is Faculty Senate President-elect. We thought we should get some continuity with the faculty. It was a very well-attended meeting, so well-attended that we had to go to a larger auditorium because people are quite interested in the speed with which this thing seems to be moving. I don't know, I came away, I'd invite any of you, other folks that attended, I was convinced that this is going to happen. It's not if, it just is, and it's sooner rather than later, and we need to figure out how to do it. And there are some, hurdles to get over. We have 124 credit hours to graduate now. We need to get to 120. Talking about developmental education basically going away. Everything be co-ed because they kind of teaching. Some pretty big things. There's other things that were not focused on too much at that meeting, like financial incentives for students in their senior year. We don't know what that means. That's Incentive Bill 997 too. But there was a lot of talk about banded tuition, which was taken out of the legislation. And banded tuition is simply where you would charge a flat rate for a certain number of credit hours, maybe 12, and students could take as many over that as they wanted to, perhaps up to 15 or 18 hours. That causes concern for most everyone, but it really should cause us concern because we're the lowest tuition, except Harris Stowe, and they're just a couple of dollars away from us. And we're kind of stuck with Senate Bill 389 and what we could do with tuition. So those are things that going to take some real thought. If how we get to, if we need to move to banded tuition or something like it, maybe we could come up with some other ideas on that. We talked about a few things that we might suggest in its place. The University Council met earlier. We've reconstructed that group a little bit. As you recall, it's the central clearinghouse for policies and procedures for campus, and also the central huddle for the great game. We added all the deans to the group. We just had last year, I think Dean Miller was the only one attending, kind of as representative of deans. But thinking that how do we have accountability for the great game? Well, we need representation from all the deans, department chairs, then to faculty and staff. So that gives us the straight line of sight now to the University Council for that piece of business. We also had a report there from Scott Cragen and Jeff Gibson on kind of an update on where we are with the great game education. And we got to look at the new scoreboard, which is really very exciting, and probably something you should share with the board at some point, because it does give us much more in-depth information about what we're doing at the unit level. We can just drill down with drop-down boxes to see what's happening in each area. So at some point in the future, we need to have Jeff and Scott come and present to the group, maybe the work session. As far as the great game update goes, you can see in your report that I said 57% of all employees have been through the first finance training, but now it's 58%. We learned from Jeff this morning, which is really a remarkable accomplishment. I'm sure that we're going to get more people through this. The next session up is mini games, I understand, and it's just about ready to be rolled out. But the session I attended, face-to-face session, was just really fantastic. And it's presented by non-finance, no offense, finance folks, but it's presented by non-finance people. In fact, the kinesiology professor was presenting the finance data to people. And the questions that were asked were, obviously, people are getting it. They were well thought out. There were actually questions that were kind of ahead of us a little bit, and maybe getting into the next sessions of training, but it's clear that people are catching on to the idea, and they're starting to understand the budget picture in a bigger sense. But that also, this conversation we had about cash and cash reserve will help us with that work too. The last item there that I had listed here is a state budget picture, and I think the release of some of the restrictions that we saw just in the last few weeks by Governor Nixon may signal that revenues are holding pretty steady. Hopefully that we don't have to worry about further restrictions this year. Perhaps we do, but we don't know. But that's not really the point I think we need to keep making over and over. The little chart that I've included down at the bottom is probably the thing we have to talk about most. It shows a comparison of Missouri, Iowa, Kansas, and Nebraska, the percent of budget that's spent on higher education. Iowa spends 26.7%, Kansas 17.6%, Nebraska 23.5%, and Missouri spends 4.8%. So with that kind of support from the state, and tuition restrictions, it's going to become very difficult to operate our universities at the level our students deserve if we don't find some way to get really both more state support and some tuition relief. You can click on that link I just marked here. If you follow that link, it'll take you to the National Association of State Budget Officers, and you can see what all 8 states around us spend more money on higher education than we do, by at least a factor of 2, and some is a factor of 5. And many of them have half the population. So I know we're in a low tax state, all those things, but it's a matter of capacity, probably because of lower taxes and lower revenue. It's also a matter of priorities. And I think we need to keep banging the bell that higher education is important. It's important to the economic development of the state. And these kind of things, we're just going to keep pushing. That's concluding my report and answering the questions that you might have.
Any questions for Dr. Marble?
I had a chance to mention down recently, I spent some time with the state economist up there. 4.5% revenue projection they have this year for the state. They're actually very confident that it's going to hold up. Early, they were up by 7%. They're up over 5% still at this point. They feel pretty solid about that projection this year.
That's good news.
And I think that's why that happened.
way I released the file.
Next item on the agenda is consideration of old business. Is there any old business to come before the body? Hearing none, we move to new business, and the first item of new business is ICE. I understand that you want to talk about some audited financial statements.
I think I would
Oh,
like to do
let's
that.
do- let's do
Yes,
it.
I would. Well, as mentioned earlier, we do have representatives here from BKD to walk us through our annual audit report. And podium, thank you. And I'd like to introduce Kim Han. She is a partner at BKD out of the Springfield office, and she will present some information for us.
Thank you. We always appreciate the opportunity to come before the board and deliver the results of the 2016 audit in this case. And as was mentioned, we did meet earlier today with the audit committee, so I'm going to keep my comments very brief for this meeting today. But we did issue a clean or unmodified opinion on the financial statements, which basically states that the financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects as of and for the year ended June 30 of 2016. The letter of the independent accountant also refers to the financials of the foundation. And those, the foundation is a discretely presented component unit for the university. And those financial statements were audited by other auditors. So you'll see that referred to in the opinion letter. In planning and performing our audit, we do consider the university's system of internal control, both over the financial statements and of compliance with federal programs. And I'm happy to report that we did not come across any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies that we were reporting to this group today. And then part of the report, you'll see there's a group or a section called the MD&A, and that is the management's discussion and analysis. It's prepared by management, and it gives you a good overview of significant changes that occurred from prior year to the current year. So if you want a summary of kind of what happened or a snapshot of that, that's a good place to go to read that. And in addition to the financial statements, you'll see the footnotes that follow those statements. And that's also a good place to go if you want more detailed information about any of the significant line items on the financial statements or any information about significant accounting policies of the university. The other thing in connection with the work, because the university does receive federal funding, we do some procedures on those major federal programs that the university receives, and this year that was student financial aid. And again, I'm happy to report that there were no compliance findings that rose to the level of being required to be reported to this group or to the Department of Education. So I'm always happy to announce that. However, I also caution the group that the Department of Education has been very active and has been visiting many campuses and looking at the financial aid programs. And so encourage you all to continue your diligence as you have in the past and hope that they do not visit you. We also talked just very briefly about, the colleges and universities continuing to face a lot of challenges with, lower high school student, the numbers coming out of high school, competition for graduates. And we're very excited about a lot of the programs that we've heard the university talking about, whether it's new programs, joint ventures, and those types of things that are going to really set the university apart, help maintain and continue to grow the enrollment, which will obviously help continue to improve the bottom line, the financial health of the university. So again, we're excited to hear about those new programs and see how they turn out. And again, we just really appreciate the cooperation we get from Rob and Linda, and whether it's IT or financial aid or any of the groups on campus, everyone is very cooperative in helping us get through the audit process, which makes it efficient for us and for the university. And again, I know they work very, very hard during a time when they still have their own job to do, and just want to again offer up our appreciation for their diligence and really trying to make the audit process go well. And we've had a good relationship with the university in a professional sense as the auditors, and we hope that continues in the future. Any questions for me about the audit report or anything else that I could answer?
Are there any questions? Yeah.
I apologize for not being at the meeting earlier today, because I probably could have asked this obviously at that point. While you didn't find anything that rose to the level of finding, did you find any areas of improvement that you pointed out to us?
Of where we would have a recommendation for improvement? Right. I think in the internal control, we always try to come up with a recommendation to say, here's a best practice, or here's an area that we think you should look at. consider it? Does the cost equal the benefit of implementing such a change? And so we did have a couple of little items like that that again weren't really of significant concern that we did discuss. An item even related to the federal aid program. We say, hey, we're seeing this as being an item that's being looked at. You need to take action, and everyone has always been very proactive in doing so. I didn't know if you wanted me to try to get into any details. Nothing comes to mind again of.
No, I know where to chase that one now.
Okay.
That's, obviously there are two different levels of findings there.
Yes.
Which raises the level of the action that report is another is, hey, here's what's coming down the road, you might want to get ready for it, so that's what.
And we always make those suggestions, and again, I've been very pleased with the reaction. It's never like, oh, no, that doesn't apply, or we always get a good reaction of, hey, let's look at it, what would it cost, what would be the benefits, and again, we appreciate those comments and the feedback we get from the recommendations that we do make.
There was one specific issue that we spent a little bit of time discussing, and that is this new overtime standard, FLSA, and its impact, and they had it in their report, and so we quizzed management about its efforts to comply with that, and we're well underway in terms of complying by December.
The other one that at least was on my mind, while it has not been as significant in the past years, it looks like it will be from here on, which is the handling of capital funds at this point, because we're embarking under some pretty major construction for my opinion, for the foreseeable future even at this point. So also we kind of wanted to make sure that we had the ability to track how those funds were expended and were taken care of as well. Because it just hasn't, a few years ago, it wasn't an issue at all, was it?
No.
So,
I think we're tracking them okay. A couple other things that were pointed out. We have a Mosher's increase coming next year. We need to be watching for 2 or 3 other things that we will certainly take.
That was FY 18, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's 18, starting at 17, 18.
Okay.
So we know that next year we're going to be paying 19.5%, something like that. So they're always offering, these are just suggestions, on how to kind of be prepared for things in the future. But FLSA is one that we were fully aware of, but I appreciate the help and guidance that we'll get from BKD as we move forward. In fact, we've called them a few times already.
Any other questions for Auditor? A couple comments I'd like to make is, first of all, Kim, to you and your team, appreciate the level of quality work that you and your firm do, as well as how much information you give us at those meetings. For the past several years that I've attended, I've come away from there feeling like that we had really gone through a good process in our audit and received good information. Rob, Linda, your team, kudos to you again. No audit adjustments, and that's not the norm. It's been the way it's been the past several years here, but it's not the norm. And very much appreciated the level of quality of work you do and the ownership that you guys take in these financial statements. It does not go unnoticed. So appreciate that very much.
Thank you for that, and I echo exactly what has been said here. Really appreciate the relationship. It's always been very good. You do put us through our paces, and I appreciate that because I do feel like that we come away with a really good product at the end of the day. Appreciate that Ryan Civil and Kyle Miller are here as well from BKD, and it's just a good relationship, and I appreciate your team as well. Thank you.
You did a great job.
They've done all the hard work. So.
I do think there's one thing going forward that we'll probably need some help on. This how we close out the Perkins. The Perkins loan is coming to an end, and I think there's a lot of questions about what happens to loans that are outstanding that are supposed to be, I guess, returned, cash on hand perhaps. Or, we don't. I don't know. Maybe you know the answer, Linda, but it's all happening pretty rapidly, and it's just coming. So we'll be in touch.
Yeah, I just went through that process with a small private college that just liquidated theirs in the spring. So we're ready to help and assist. And there's probably some things you can do to try to get ready for that. Maybe just looking at your pool and your documentation, because if the documentation isn't there, they're not going to take them. So
I assume that the board's aware that the Perkins loan program is going on.
it's going to close.
So
I joked with Kim at lunch. In a different life, I did work similar to this many years ago, And of course, everything is done electronically now. And I asked the question, how do you know when you're done with your audit? Because everybody knows you have to have that many work papers before you can go home. But that's just showing my age, I guess.
It wasn't that long ago, I was around.
Well, we're not gonna talk about that.
Well, thank you again.
Thank you, thank you. So we need to take action to approve the audited financial statements. Would entertain a motion to do so.
On behalf of the committee, I move that we accept the independent auditor's report.
We have the motion made from Governor Gibson and a second
Second.
from Governor Plotnick. Any discussion? All those in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Now we have a discussion of 2012 board minutes. Dr. Robert, are you going to lead that?
Yeah, this is an interesting item. In your packet, you should have some of the Missouri Association Board of Governors minutes, and it's a copy of the September 2012 minutes. Was it 2 weeks ago or 10 days ago, something like that? We had a visit from accreditation team for Industrial Engineering and Technology Program. I guess it's the ETAC, the Engineering Technology Accreditation Council, partner with ABET. In fact, the one gentleman says the best visit he'd had in 20 years he'd been doing this. They could only find one thing, and I don't know how he found it, but apparently, clearly, because he sent me a copy of their rules, the bylaws. When you're accredited, you can't say for how many years. It's just one of their rules. You can't say until such date or for how many years. And in 2012, in the accreditation, if you turn to page 4, you'll see that Dr. LaPira, quite naturally, as anyone would have, said MSSU's Industrial Engineering Technology degree became a newly accredited program in August and has been accredited
Don't say that date.
until strike this date. So you'll see that has been, those strike through to be replaced by the BS in Industrial Engineering Technology, was accredited by the Engineering Technology Accrediting Commission, TAC, or ABET, period. And that's the verbiage that the accrediting body would like to see there. We contacted legal counsel to see about how you change minutes, and this is exactly the way they said that we needed to do it. You need to highlight on the front page that the minutes would be amended on this date, keep a copy of these amended minutes with the old minutes in the file, and then online we'll just show the new minutes. And that will satisfy the accrediting body and take care of the legal concerns. So with that, I would suggest that someone make a motion to such a change.
Mr. President, I would move that we amend the minutes from the September 21, 2012 meeting to reflect that proposed change.
Very good. Governor Fleischhacker makes that motion. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Governor Flanagan seconds that. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Alan.
And we will get a copy of these minutes to the accrediting body.
Very good. Very good. Next up is consideration of academic policy proposals. Dr. Carson.
Thank you so much. In your binder, you will find the summary. The extended documentation was provided to you, justification for all of these. Again, as Brad indicated, there are significant numbers because we're trying to get the catalog done, and with the implementation of the online catalog, we're trying particularly diligently to make sure it's correct. He did mention Faculty Senate had to meet twice, and that was an enormous burden for such a large group of people to spend so much time outside and then to meet again. So we're very thankful. There was some for dental hygiene accreditation. There were some curriculum changes that just had to be made in the most expedient of fashions, and so that required the entire Senate body to gather for a second meeting, a special meeting this month, and they did so willingly and very, very happily, and I'm very grateful that you all did that. The way we're going to present these is significant policies such as the one about reduction of the length of the baccalaureate degree to a minimum of 120, and some scheduling changes, some things about expanding and recognition of associate degrees to accredited international universities and the like will all be in the front of the packet. Back of the packet will be the actual curricular changes that will modify learning goals or prerequisites or course numbering to reflect the sequence of progressive difficulty and the like. So I would be happy to take any questions that you might have about these and would appreciate your consideration and support.
I think everybody had these mailed out to them, or emailed out to them, rather. I just had a chance to look them over. I'm sure Dr. Carson would answer any questions you might have on those. If there's not any questions, we would entertain a motion to accept these proposals as presented by Dr. Carson.
So moved.
Governor Franks makes the motion.
Second.
Governor Fleischhager the second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Carson. Next up is Mr. Brad Belk to talk to us about the mansion and the National Register.
Good afternoon, and I want to thank you for inviting me to lunch today. This is a very exciting day in Missouri Southern history. Today, we are further enhancing the university's compelling story by leaving an everlasting tribute to the Lucius P. Buchanan home. 18 months ago, that would be April 2015, I reported to many of you in this room of the beginning of the process for placing the Lucius P. Buchanan home on the National Register of Historic Places. After receiving your blessing, the researching and writing of the application began. Following several rewrites and edits, the application was approved for consideration by Michelle Dietrich and the staff at the Missouri State Historic Preservation Office. Michelle is the state's National Register and Survey Coordinator. I must note that Michelle and her staff were extremely helpful during the application stage, and I thank them for their supreme cooperation. The next step involved a formal presentation to the Missouri Advisory Council on Historic Preservation. On the 20th of May, 2016, I presented and defended our application to members of the Missouri State Historic Preservation Advisory Board in St. Charles, Missouri. Following that presentation, and without any questions, the board unanimously approved the application. Then following one last edit, our application was sent to the United States Department of the Interior's National Park Service for final review and approval. After 2 months review, Michelle received an email from Edison Beal, the director of the National Park Service. The email stated that the Buchanan home was officially listed on the National Register of Historic Places on August 22nd, 2016. Today, the Lucius P. Buchanan home is the Office of the Alumni and Constituent Relations. Therefore, obviously, Lee Pound, the director of the Missouri Southern State University Alumni Association, and I were extremely pleased with the outcome, which leads us to today, the official day to dedicate and recognize this worthy achievement. We have multiple objectives for our celebration. One, formally recognize the 1926 Buchanan home as a national historic property to the public and the media. 2, properly thank everyone that assisted in the process. 3, further educate the public, university students, and staff on the proud tradition of Missouri Southern. And lastly, celebrate the accomplishment. We plan a short program and ribbon-cutting celebration for 3 p.m. at this historic site in front of the Buchanan home. We encourage everyone to attend the ceremony. I know this has been a very long day for you, but we would love for all of you to attend. The story of Lucius P. Buchanan is the essence of the American dream. A self-made man that began as a penniless lead and zinc miner that gouged the land off nearby Turkey Creek. In time, he amassed a fortune from mining. Buchanan fell in love with a particular parcel of land that overlooked the creek. It was this land, with its beautiful panoramic view, that attracted him to build a grand Spanish Revival-style country home in 1926. Buchanan's home, as well as his estate, play another role in the history of Southwest Missouri. A much-needed junior college was established in downtown Joplin in 1937 to provide an affordable education for the area miners' children. In time, the Joplin community leaders wanted the college to expand into a 4-year institution. But to do that, they needed an expansive land to create a college campus. The former Buchanan home and estate became available in the 1960s. Visionary community leaders and college officials set their sights on the property, purchased it, and then began planning a college campus. But before there was one single building constructed on the property, there was the Buchanan home. And during the infancy of the college, the home was used as President Billingsley's office and the planning headquarters for the future college campus. The Buchanan home today harkens back to those days and stands in proud testimony honoring its role in the development and historical narrative of education in Southwest Missouri. Therefore, its true value is directly connected to higher education, and most importantly, the birthplace of Missouri Southern State University. It is valuable for us to know the significance of this National Register listing. The National Register of Historic Places is the nation's highest honor roll and the official list of historic buildings and sites in the United States of America. Authorized under the National Historic Preservation Act of 1966, the Register is part of a national program to coordinate and support public and private efforts to identify, evaluate, and protect our historic and archaeological resources. The Register's goals are to foster a national preservation ethic, promote a greater appreciation of America's rich heritage, and increase and broaden the public's understanding and appreciation of historic places. What is amazing to me is the Buchanan home will, from this day on, be in the company of other magnificent buildings listed on the National Register, like our United States Capitol, Thomas Jefferson's home, Monticello, the Arch in St. Louis, the Jasper County Courthouse in Carthage, and Joplin Scottish Rite Cathedral. This is a tremendous honor to be associated with these elite, iconic structures in American history. In closing, the Register preserves these notorious places by forever recognizing their irreplaceable heritage. This listing is permanent. Let me go one step further. This status will never, ever be removed. The building with its story is everlasting. The Buchanan home chronicles the remarkable history of the university. The Buchanan home will remain the undisputable link to the past and the bridge to the exciting future. The Buchanan home will be, from this day on, a shining beacon, a constant reminder to never forget how this university began, a forever tribute to Missouri Southern State University's rich and extraordinary history. Thank you. Yeah, anybody got any questions or anything?
3 o'clock in front of the.
Yes, we'd love to be there, and I'll have a whole new set of words to tell you. So,
Congratulations, Brad.
Thank you.
it was a pleasure and an honor. Thank you.
Brett, thank you for all that hard work, and it's a big day for Missouri Southern.
It is.
That mansion means so much to this university and those of us who went to school here. I have memories of the, let's just call them the 1980s and leave it at that. Having classes over there, having advisors there, having classes in the servants' quarters that were to the west of there. And it was just a big day. So,
We had classes in there.
Wow. Amazing.
yep.
Thank you.
Good work. Thank you.
Pass those classes.
So no, we don't need, this is televised. We don't need to.
And I just learned it used to be the president's office. So look out, Lee.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either, Lee just said it.
Okay, are there any other items to come before the board? You see there the list of the future meeting dates. We have, I guess, one more meeting this year on November 18th. If there's no other items to come before the board.
Well, I did have a question on the dates. It was, Rob and I discussed that, are we meeting on January 20th?
That's gonna conflict with the
Yeah.
NCAA.
Yeah.
We changed the date last year, so we can work on dates.
Yeah, let's work on dates, and we'll bring something back. Is that
Good,
is that
thank
all
you.
right? Good point, Bill. Thank you. If there's no other items, we would entertain a motion to dismiss.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Governor Plotnick, second by Governor Franks. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you very much.
I think that's right.
Thank you, sir.